we're all just going, oh, dear Father, dear Lord, and dear God. And one guy just goes, hi, Daddy.
Oh, no.
Are you? Hi, Daddy? What?
Dude, I wish I could say that I did not hear that myself before.
Hi, Daddy?
That prayer group that I had mentioned previously, there was someone had started talking about how the Bible says Abba Father. Abba is like an endearing term. It's like saying daddy. So like people I heard that too, man. Daddy God. You're like,
Daddy
I'm
God.
not here for that.
Dude, the logical next step in this arms race is senpai.
Jeez,
Dear
man.
sweet heavenly senpai.
Hey everybody, we're back with another episode of Growing Up Christian, and it's not really a we, it's just a me. Casey's not here, and this is going to be a quick one. Casey and I just got back from vacation, and we didn't really have time to throw one of these together, but that worked out pretty well because we had a long conversation with our new friend, Mike Valdes, and my God, I can't really think of enough great things to say about him. I really, really enjoy Mike Valdes. We had such a fun time talking to him that we just didn't even cut it off. We kept rolling. We figured if we're in for it, hopefully you are all in for it too. So we just kept it going. Mike is a comedian. He's also a podcast, and which is how I found out about him. His podcast is called Childlike at Best, and he interviews different people about different things pertaining to childhood. You know, what's your favorite cereal, favorite TV shows, kind of things like that. He's definitely talked a good bit about Boy Meets World, and we connected on that a little bit when I first started talking to him. He also has another podcast coming out soon, and you can go ahead and find it on social media. He's trying to get that thing going now, but it's called Retreat Yourself, and it's going to be pertaining to, you know, Christian camp type stories, church retreat kind of things. Fantastic name. He's also been on, a few different things, and it's slipping my mind. So I'm pulling it up as we speak because I'm not professional and I do this on the fly. I'm also taking a break from homework to try to get it done. And I only got back from vacation about 4 hours ago. I'm definitely not super well prepared, but you know, he's been on Nickelodeon, Fox, A&E. He's been in some music videos for Imagine Dragons and the Jonas Brothers, which is really fucking cool. He's also a musician. This guy does everything. So Mike Valdes and the Noise is the name of his band. His album Dreamer is available on all music streaming platforms. I feel like there's always other things I forget to say that Casey and I always talk about saying, but never get to. And I believe one of those would be, go ahead and leave us a review. Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, leave us a review. Don't just do stars. If you have like 30 seconds to type out really nice things about us, even if you don't think they're true, we'd really appreciate it. The reviews, as far as stars go, are great. Actually, written reviews are even more helpful, and all that just kind of pushes us up the algorithm. I don't know if it's algorithms or not, but it pushes us up so we're visible to more people. It might relate us to other podcasts. It'd be just really helpful if you would do that for us. And also just whatever your favorite episodes are. Maybe it's this one because this is one of my favorites, but just share them with people, tell your friends, maybe don't tell your family if you're just on the cusp of leaving the church or something like that. And maybe they might not find this for them if you're here because you're, post-evangelical, ex-evangelical, whatever. Anyway, but if you can think of some people who might enjoy this as well, share it. Word of mouth does a lot for podcasts. So I think that's it. I'm going to cut out. We're going to cut to our interview. It's hard to call it an interview. It was a conversation. It's a conversation with our friend, Mike Valdes.
Friends, I know a lot of you out there are small business owners. I know a few of you are musicians or artists. Regardless of which camp you fall into, eventually you're going to want to put out some custom merchandise. But the prospect of getting a design together and going through one of these impersonal, large scale websites can be intimidating and tedious. And that's why we're proud to be sponsored by Minor Threads. Minor Threads is a North Texas based custom printing company that is able to help you get your logo, your company's branding information, your design onto almost anything.
Maybe you want to order some shirts, some stickers, banners, maybe enamel pins. The merch game's crazy these days. Minor Threads can help you with all sorts of promotional products. They also specialize in custom printing with low minimums. That can be great if you're a small company just looking to put in a small order. And for our environmentally friendly friends out there, they have plenty of eco-friendly options as well.
So if you're ready to take that step and get some merchandise, go to minorthreadsco.com and request a quote. Mention this ad and you get up to 15% off custom print orders over $100. 15%. So again, go to minorthreadsco.com and tell them your boys at Grown Up Christian sent you.
Hey everybody, we're back with our guest, Mike Valdes. Mike, thanks so much for hanging out with us, man.
Thank you so much for letting me be here. What an honor to be here.
Yeah, I've been really. There's every once in a while, like when we connect with somebody to have on the show. Usually, you make that connection, then you schedule it, and then you don't hear from them until like 30 seconds beforehand when they're like, "Hey, where's the link?" And we're like, "Sorry, we're running late. We're not very organized and good at this." But I like then with you, we've been kind of talking back and forth for the past couple of weeks, and it has made me exceptionally excited to
Yeah,
do this.
man. Well, it's one of those things because like I like to when I find people that are in my tribe, I like to keep them close.
Yeah,
So, and that's kind of how I've always been, and you guys are my tribe. So like and that's kind of, especially when you guys found me on Instagram. Or I don't know who found who. I don't know what the meet cute story was, but we found each other on Instagram, and and yeah, and then I started seeing the memes, and then I was like, okay, I understand, what these guys are about. I'm going to listen to this podcast, and then I was seeing, colleagues of mine, comedians of my friends of mine,
yeah.
things, and I was like, okay, these guys are like legit. They're talking to some people I know. Okay, this is great, and so yeah, I'm very excited to be here. This is awesome.
Nice.
It's funny, like I was just having that conversation. You're talking about tribe and
Yeah.
like pulling people in. I was just having that conversation with one of my sales reps yesterday because we had a work convention in Austin over the weekend. And he was talking about like so and so was so rude to me. Like I never would have figured they would have been like that. I'm like, dude, the only thing that I've figured out over the past like 15 years of doing this is some people are not your friends. Figure out the ones that are, pull them close, and just keep everybody else at arm's length. That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
all you can do.
So true. Absolutely, man. I mean, and not only that, I mean, I work in the entertainment business, so that's pretty much like treat it like nobody's your friend because that's pretty much the truth. Like no, like nobody's your friend unless it means that you can help them get famous,
Yeah.
or something,
You work
and
on something with, do you ever work on something with someone and you're like, that was great. I think we have a real connection. And then afterwards you're just like, oh, they're never going to talk to me again.
Um, I mean, yes and no. I have certainly been on both ends of the spectrum. I have certainly done things. I've certainly done things where like, for example, I have done a project where, like, for example, I did a commercial that was on the Super Bowl a couple of years ago,
Oh,
and
cool.
and so I got a few people, from the woodworks that I had never talked to from high school. And, they were like, "Hey man, like that was really great that I got to see you. Like how did I do that?" And it's like, "Well, you get an agent and then you go through 10 years of a lot of rejection and then eventually you'll get on a Super Bowl commercial." You know what I mean? Like it's not as easy as you think it is. It's
Yeah,
a
but
lot of
since we had shop class together, why don't you just butt in front of me in line? I'll just scoot you to the front.
Yeah, man. I mean, the people. A lot of people just don't understand like the hard work that it takes. Um, and especially with comedy, man. With comedy, it's
Oh, I
something
bet.
that everybody thinks that they can do because because here's the thing, and this is something that I like to tell everybody. I personally, I think everybody's funny. Even people that say I'm not funny, I really do think everybody's funny. And here's the thing, everybody is situationally funny.
Mhm.
Okay. That means like around your friends in certain scenarios, like you feel okay saying something, whatever, you are there. There's always a chance that you are going to be funny. What separates you from other people that are comedians are that the comedians can be funny in a place where they've never met any of those people before.
Yeah.
Like they're complete strangers. We don't know you. Like, and we're just making funny out of nothing.
Yeah, and
You
people feel the vibe. Like,
Yeah.
if you walk into a room and it's like people might not be feeling it or they don't know who you are. Like, if you let that sink in at all, I imagine you're fucked. Like,
Yeah.
people will smell it, they'll feel it.
Yeah. I mean, and just, kind of to kind of finish my story, because like on the other end, one thing that I was talking about, I'm also the kind of person that's like, I don't want to ruin a good moment. Like if I have a good moment with somebody, I don't want to ruin it. And so I was lucky enough to be a part of a project with a lot of really great comedians, a lot of really great actors. One of them being Chris Parnell from Saturday Night Live, Courtney Cox from Friends, people like that. And I was on this project for a few days, and we were doing a scene, and I was backstage, kind of getting ready for a shot, and Chris Parnell walked up to me and he just goes, "Hey, I'm Chris." And I kind of had my moment, like, like, I know who you are, but like I'm gonna
Yeah.
pretend like I don't know who you are, and whatever, because that's kind of like the Hollywood thing, is like you kind of have to pretend like you don't know who people are. And so I was like, "Oh, it's so great to meet you, whatever." And he was like, "Hey man, I just want to let you know you're doing such a great job today. You're really funny." And dude,
Amazing.
I just lost it. Like I broke down, because it's like you're hearing somebody that's made you laugh for years tell you, like, validate you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And essentially just be like, "You're worthy of eating at this table with us." You know? And I was just like, "Hey man, I just want to let you know, like, you mean so much to me. Like, you being on Saturday Night Live, like, that means the world to me. Like, thank you for doing that. And like, and thank you, for all of the comedy that you've done and on all that stuff." He was super sweet. We ended up talking for quite a while, and we exchanged numbers. To this day, I still have his number. I will never text him. I will
Yeah.
never call him. I will never call him. Never. because if I do, I will ruin that moment. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah,
And
I
that
get
so,
that.
Yep.
yeah, I will never use it. I will never use that number,
The perfect
unless,
like dump in that cupcake would be to like call him and be like, "Yeah, so you want to hang out?" And he's like, I'm just really who is this again?"
yeah, I
It's
mean,
like, what do you do? What would you use it for? Unless it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't even know what you would do with it. Like,
I
now
mean,
we have this. We had this moment. I
yeah,
have your number.
again,
What's there to do?
it was something that happened very organically. Like I
Mhm.
don't even think I asked him for it. Like it was something very organic that happened. And again, I was just like, I just don't want to call him, because I just don't want him to think I'm crazy. Like it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys go through this, but like this is a real thing that happens to me. It happened to me today at the gym, where like if I'm walking behind somebody for like more than 10 seconds, I start getting scared that they think I'm following them.
Yes, yes.
Like
Dude, my big one is if I'm following somebody, if I'm like walking up the stairs behind somebody I don't know, I'm like, they're gonna think my face is like in their ass right now.
Yeah.
And it's so awkward.
Yeah, dude. And
Maybe
I'm
it's
just
just the
like,
loud sniffing noises that you're making that makes me uncomfortable.
I like comically have my head down real low, like I'm almost like crouching going up the stairs. They're like, "What is this guy
yeah.
doing?
And
You're making it
certainly
even
them
weirder."
turning around and you licking your lips isn't helping. You know, like so
Making cartoon sounds. Oh god! It's like eyes are bulging out of my head. It's like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
Oh man.
Okay, so I have a game that
Yeah.
I thought would be fun to start off with here.
Love it.
Okay, because I was listening to one of your shows, and it sounds like you're a fan of like '90s, 2000s
Yeah.
sitcoms and things like that.
Of course, yeah.
So I'm calling this game the Sitcom Family Denomination Game.
Oh no. This is gonna be great.
So we toss out a family, and we need to decide what
Whether they're Christian
denomination
or
they
not?
fit into. Yeah, like
Okay.
what church do they go to? What's it like?
I don't think you understand, Casey. I've been training my entire life for this. Like, I know for a fact that the Matthews family is a Christian family because there's episodes where they reference God.
Like the episode when Mr. Turner's in the hospital and Mr. Matthews is talking to Sean. He's like, "What do you believe in God?" That line,
What do you believe in? Do you believe in God? I don't know. And then they start praying, and then he prays in the hospital.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he prays in the hospital.
He prays an evangelical prayer.
Yeah, Christians are not afraid to ruin a moment.
Yeah,
they will. They will ruin a beautiful moment with that.
Yeah.
What if you died tonight? Have you thought about that? I mean, I know you got a lot of stress going on. If you didn't wake up from the anesthesia, you know, where would you go?
Oh my gosh.
Not to stress you out.
That's funny.
Okay, so first one on the list. Let's start at the top.
Okay.
The Winslows from Family Matters.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I feel like they're definitely church-going people for sure. They were and they were definitely, I mean, I wouldn't say definitely, but I would say they went to like a no, I know for a fact, hang on. There are episodes where they sing in choirs and stuff, right? Aren't there? I'm pretty sure.
I was trying to recall, and
there
I could
might
not
be.
recall any, but
I'm pretty. There's got to be some "Did I do that?" moments at church. Like
knocked over the communion table.
Like
Steve is in the handbell choir for sure.
Oh yeah.
Steve was in the puppet choir or whatever, like
puppet ministry, dude.
Puppet ministries.
I fucked with the puppet ministry for a minute.
Who didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah. They
I thought it was pretty
the
good
Winslows were cool. Like the Winslows were a cool family. So they're not going somewhere that's uptight. They're definitely going to be at like I'm going to say like
they weren't Southern Baptist.
No.
They were not Southern Baptist. They went to a cool, like charismatic, like an
AME church.
Yeah.
I'm going AME, but that might be racist just because they're black. So I don't know if I should have said that.
I don't know if it is though, because
safe to say.
Because let's be completely honest. Like, I mean, I was kind of telling my dad this recently, where like I don't really listen to worship music anymore. But I listen to Maverick City music because I love Maverick City. I think they're great.
I don't even know Maverick City. I feel like I should feel some shame right now.
No, it's totally fine. They're very modern gospel music.
Okay.
And it's like they're kind of like in their early 20s and 30s, and like, you know, it's like it's an all black band, and like, and I was like, you know, not to sound weird, but like it only sounds like worship only sounds good coming from black people. You know what I mean? Like it kind of sounds corny when white people sing worship. You know what I mean? Like Hillsong kind of sucks when you think about it.
Yeah, they're
like
ambient Coldplay covers.
Yeah, like yes, dude. I'm so glad we're bringing this up. By the way, I get it. Like, it's like once Hillsong heard Fix You by Coldplay, they were like, we got it. And we're never writing another song again. Like, you know what I mean?
We're
Like,
making a marketing decision right now.
like every song is Fix You by Coldplay.
When
Every
white
single
people
song.
repeat the same words over and over and over again, it gets played out quick. But when they're in like the black gospel, when I was at Liberty, I had a friend who was an incredible singer, and I went to this charismatic prayer group for a while, and they would just make stuff up as they went, repeated everything over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he was great. Also, that guy also is at Elevation now, and I feel a little weird about that because Elevation Church is a little weird. But at that time, prior to that, I was like, that like sucked me into this whole new thing, and I was like, this is amazing. This guy is incredible, and I feel like when he repeated everything over and over and over again, I'm here for it. And then you go to I would go to Thomas Road Baptist Church on their Wednesday night service, and it was just like people singing about lifting Jesus' name on high over and over again. You're like, are we done yet? This is getting weird.
I love it. I love that the name of the church is always the whitest thing on the face of it. Like Rice Krispies Second Baptist Church. Like
it's not officially segregated, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2, the Taylors from Home Improvement.
Oh boy. They did go to church. There are episodes where they're at church. I think they were a Catholic family.
That's where I was leaning too.
I think they're a Catholic family. And they are so towards the right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think that's why I was feeling they had non-denominational written all over them.
Maybe, but like, yeah, but it feels Catholic. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but like,
there's no wrong answers in this game.
Like the ones, the one I know for sure that the two, not to kill your game here. The ones I know for sure that are definitely Catholics are the family from Sabrina the Teenage Witch and the family from King of Queens, because we actually see them talking to ministers that are Catholic. So
I can place that. I think casual Catholic, like they go regularly. They definitely show up when there's a beer tent, and he volunteers for church projects, but nobody really wants him to.
Right. Exactly.
It gets uncomfortable because he cusses when he smacks his finger or something, working on the, putting a new roof on the church, sanctuary or whatever.
Yeah. That's funny.
The Tanners from Full House. Man,
I knew this was coming up. I'm so nervous about this one because I truly don't know. And and it's so tough to say because one of the actresses is so vocally Christian.
Oh yeah. Candace, right?
Yeah, Candace Cameron. She's like so vocally Christian, but I don't think the family seems like they're anything. Like, they just don't seem like they believe in anything. Like, I feel like they just believe in positivity and hugs.
And keeping a clean house.
Yeah, keeping a clean house.
Yeah. I see them as like a community Bible sort of family.
Yeah.
The kids play rec league soccer, and, the parents, one of the parents plays in the worship band, something like that.
Maybe when they're not off in Japan being famous. Doing covers of Beach Boys songs and pretending they're theirs.
All except for Candace, who's speaking at CPAC this year.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, dark turn. The Cosbys.
Oh, yikes.
This one's hard because it's very tough not to factor in, everything we know.
Yeah.
Well, if we're factoring that in, we got to go Southern Baptist.
I mean,
I was thinking Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
There's that. Which is the religion that drugs people?
Scientology. Do they do druggings?
Nice.
Most likely.
What's the religion? I guess all of them, right? What's the religion? I was gonna say, what's the religion that drugs people and is misogynistic, and then I was like, all of them, really.
Narrow it down.
Yeah, and misogyny really lumps a lot of them into the same.
Oh
the
my
same
god,
circle.
yeah.
That's a heavy
Oh my
overlap
god.
on the Venn diagram there.
Yeah, I don't really know where to put them. But I can definitely yeah, that one's tough. I guess
I'm gonna go to like
Jehovah's
some
Witness?
conservative Episcopalian branch. That's what I'm going with.
No, you know what? Probably not Jehovah's Witness because they celebrated birthdays and stuff like that on the show from my memory.
I mean, he was what kind of doctor was he? He delivered
He was a
babies.
gynecologist.
He was a gynecologist.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if he like delivered babies or
Yeah,
just.
it's kind of scary how clear the writing was on the wall.
I know.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Why I feel like there's way too many. I feel like if you're a man and you're a gynecologist, like, can we just knock that shit off? Like, what? Why?
Well,
Like-
to be fair, he was acting like one. He wasn't actually a gynecologist.
No,
I got a little caught up in the story, I guess.
I just mean in general. I feel like that's something that needs to stop.
Yeah.
Like when when my wife was pregnant, it's just like you have the option between a guy doctor and a girl doctor. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really want. Why would I want that?
Yeah.
That's not the most comfortable scenario. And
Yeah.
but like, what personality type is like? I really want to be a doctor. I'm gravitating towards gynecology. You're just like, there's a lot of other kinds of doctors.
Are you saying that all gynecologists that are male are degenerates? Is that what
I just
it
think
is?
I think they all should be studied. That's all I'm saying. I think we should study their brains and find out why they gravitate towards that.
If you disagree, leave Sam specifically a bad iTunes review.
If you're a gynecologist, just reach out. Explain to me.
Yeah.
Why in med school you shifted in that direction? No,
I'm
no
cool
one
with
thinks
that,
that's
doctor.
okay. Yeah. Well,
That's where I'm leaning. It's got the most comedic value.
I guess.
Okay, last one on the list is the Connors from Roseanne.
Oh man.
These are all kind of like tainted by what you know about the actors now.
I'm telling you, dude, that's tough. These are very, very tough. I would say, and also to be fair, I did not watch. I don't think I watched much of the Cosby Show. I think I watched Roseanne. I think I watched maybe 2 episodes of Roseanne, like ever. And the other ones I watched very frequently. But this one, the only thing I really know is they were like kind of like a trailer park family, right?
Yep, I think so.
Okay.
I actually know
So-
basically nothing about Roseanne as well.
So
Wait, is that
trailer,
it?
We
trailer
have
park
waded
family.
into waters that we're not familiar
Yeah.
with. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch Roseanne.
Yeah,
Why did I
wasn't
put
even
this
allowed
on
to
the
watch
list?
it. What? Replace it. I'm replacing it with Family Ties.
Okay.
No, I didn't watch Family Ties.
Well, they were the whole joke was that they were very liberal.
Yeah.
And Michael J. Fox's character was very Republican.
Yep.
So they probably did not go to church based on that.
They were, if at best, they were Unitarian Universalists.
Yeah.
Those dirty sinners.
Yeah. If anything, Alex went to church.
Yeah, I know. He found a nice conservative evangelical church to fit in.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
budding GOP candidate.
Yeah.
Well,
So, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself, about growing up and stuff. I mean, obviously, you got a strong foothold in this community.
Yeah, man. I mean, so I grew up, I grew up in Miami. So I also grew up in the church. So I have always kind of been around the church culture. And I'm trying to kind of remember, always kind of like, not Southern Baptist, but like, from Baptist to like, evangelical, then like non-denominational. Like the way that I like to say it is like, if it were a potato chip flavor, it would just be the yellow bag. Like it was just normal. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so, and it's pretty much all I can remember. Like it was always in my culture. So like, VBS and church camp and Awana and all of it, just all of it, and um something, I have a podcast talking about childhood and things like that, and sometimes it comes up, but it hardly ever does, because I usually talk to other people, um they don't usually relate to that stuff. It's
Right. Yeah.
unless they're like of your tribe, you know but like, when I was 12, I found this like nonprofit organization, and then the summer of that year, when I was 12, I became a missionary and was in that nonprofit organization until I was like maybe 24, and just
Wow.
traveled the entire world, doing like helping, either digging wells, or and the main thing that they did, which, like, it sounds funny, but like the main thing that they did was they did like sign language to contemporary Christian music. And so here's the thing. It sounds bad, but it's actually worse. So um, um I mean, and all love to those people. I mean, and and I don't even want to say the people, because they still exist, and I have nothing but love for those people, and they taught me, everything that, they taught me so much, and even though I'm in a different chapter of my life, I still love those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Um
great.
yeah. And so yeah, and anyway, I learned, I went to different countries, went to, geez, I mean, Jamaica, Costa Rica, Africa, goodness, everywhere around the United States. And
And this was since you were 12. Your
yeah,
parents were like, yes, go for it.
yeah,
Bring
pretty
this,
much.
bring
Pretty
this message
much.
everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, yeah, take the Bible and preach it to the people that need it in South Carolina. Like,
That's what
Worldwide.
we talk
yeah,
about that all the time, how it's like, oh, like we lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, where there was a church everywhere, the home of Liberty University. And people we graduated with were like, I just feel really called to start a church right here in Lynchburg. There's so many people that just need it. And you're like, what are you doing? What?
man. And look, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that that listen to this, and it might hurt some feelings. And I don't mean to hurt feelings. I say this with love, but the truth is, I truly feel that everybody has spiritual gifts. And one of those gifts is being a pastor. And some people think that that's their spiritual gift. And the unfortunate truth is that it's not.
Yeah.
Because because if it were, your church wouldn't have 12 people going every week, and you wouldn't have your church in a gymnasium.
My spiritual gift is narcissism.
I was just going to say that. Narcissism is not a spiritual gift.
Yeah. So like, and like, I mean, it's wild, man. I mean, again, I'm sharing this, I actually have never shared this before, but like my last falling out with a church ever, this was the last time I ever went to a church, was I was asked, so I joke about this quite a bit, but like, when you play music, and when you play an instrument, or when you sing, you come to find, or at least it starts to feel like, a lot of pastors or worship pastors are starting to take you out on dates to try to get you to play music at their church. And so, I went out on this date with a pastor, and he told me, "Hey man, you should play music at my church for free." And I was like, "Hey man, that sounds like a great idea, because you got me a free cup of coffee, so why not?" And so I
You
played
have a hard bargain.
Yeah, and so I played music for free at his church for 2 years. And
Oh, you were an easy get, huh? You're like, I'm in.
I was at that time. Yeah, I was at that time. Now here's the thing. Like, he was a great dude and all that stuff. The he actually left about like maybe a year into the church being planted, and then left back home to Tennessee. And then I stayed there with the main pastor and like other people. And so another worship leader came in who was great and is still a friend of mine and all that stuff. And I was just kind of in the back playing keys and singing backup and things like that. Whatever they needed me to do, I was doing. And and granted, I kind of did it because that was what I thought. I thought that's what I needed to do. Like I thought that I was serving God by doing that. Like I thought, and in my head, and in my head, I'm like, well, none of these people know that I write music. None of these people know that I produce, and none of these people know that, I play other instruments and I could sing better than everyone here, and all this stuff. And is that true? Absolutely. But it's still one of those things where I was like, in the confines of what this is, who cares? Because that's not why I'm here. That's not why I'm here. I'm here, to serve God or whatever the purpose of this is. So that's what I was doing. And then so maybe like a year or a few months go by, and we get sat down on a random day after our main pastor goes for a 3-week sabbatical, right?
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
I love that concept more than anything.
Yeah, well, this is the best part. He comes back. Now, granted, this church has pretty much, at its peak, has seen 50 people on Easter Sunday. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
At its peak.
I can see why you needed a sabbatical, just to get away from the depression of
at its peak, meaning the depressed people that think that going to the Easter Sunday service is going to help them get right with God is they decided to go to this school gymnasium, which it literally was a school gymnasium, and so like anyway, all this to say that like we're sat down, this whole band is sat down, and he's just like,
we're gonna have to cut your salaries. Like,
no, well, first of all, exactly. He was, what were you paying us? A freaking jewel in our crown when we die and go to heaven? And so like he was like,
I hear the exchange rate for those has gone up a lot.
I know, right? He goes, so I have done a lot of thinking, and I have come to the realization, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate you guys, and all this stuff, but this service is going to be my last service preaching, and we are going to, disband the church. And then, and I was like, oh, so I was like, in my head, I was like, okay. And so then he like went off on maybe like a 10-minute, like kind of like rampage, not rampage, but like, kind of like a, like almost like he was saying a love poem about like this worship leader that took me out on a date to play at the church. He was like, oh, he was such a great person. He could play every single instrument. He could sing. He could do everything. If you asked him to play the drums, he could play them with his feet. Like he could do everything, and after a while I started getting frustrated, and the comedian came out in me, and I was like, yeah, but he's not here anymore. You're talking to us. What do you have to say to us? And so, and everybody kind of like laughed. And then he like slowly like he like started like saying like kind of like nice things about people, I guess. Like he's like,
you guys are great too. You guys, good job playing your
which by the way, which by the way, I don't know if it was on purpose. I personally think it was, but he said something nice about the person sitting right next to me, and then said, "Let's pray," and then that was it.
Oh, you got skipped.
He was like, hey, Mike, can you close us in prayer?
And I was like, bitch, I've been here since day one. And not only that, I'm better than all these motherfuckers. But I've been in the back. I've been in the back this whole time. But I don't say anything. And that's the thing that's like frustrating. And I'm, of course, it's like it's the human in me and things like that. But these are the kind of conversations that I want to have with people like you guys, because like, the church doesn't allow us to have these conversations because
Right.
then that's ego. Then
Yeah,
that's
you gotta. I'll stay humble in the back. I don't want to put myself out there like that because everyone has their role, and I'm doing my thing. And this, yeah, you're right. The second you start talking about it, it's like, wow, Mike really developed a bit of an ego all the way in the back there, hasn't he?
And it's like, dude, but you're not. I've been here the whole time, and you're not even gonna thank me. Like, you're not even going to give me a $5 gift card to Starbucks. Like, you're not going to give me anything. Like, it's like, I feel like I was completely worthless, you know? And so, like, ever since then, I was just like, you know what? This is not, this isn't worth it. And not only that, that wasn't the only time. So I was just like, this is it. Like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah,
and so
there's that tendency to go through volunteers in church like they're fucking Kleenexes,
Yeah.
Like because I did the church plant thing too for a bit, and I'm don't know. I get a little hesitant to get too in the weeds on it.
Sure.
Simply because I don't know.
They don't like you anymore. Put them on blast.
Enough of a connection. I know they probably don't. I don't think any of them listen. I really should just get really in the weeds in it. But either way, it's like, there's a handful of people that sign up to do everything, and you're there every week, and you're there in the morning, and you're there later than everyone else, and you're stacking chairs, and just you're literally doing your entire life revolves around. And then you start burning out, and you're like, look, I don't know if I can commit to doing this anymore. Like, well, we really need you, and you kind of get that guilt trip, and you're like, I guess I'll just keep doing it. And then like the amount of people that fizzled out on it, it's like we started dropping like flies. It was just like what are we doing? Like, no. And then you get that frustrating feeling when you're still in it, where you're like, maybe it's ego, but you start thinking to yourself, is it no one else as committed as I am in this thing?
Right.
And then you get in your own head about it, and then you feel shitty about that because you're supposed to stay humble. And you're like, but all I want is, to not do this 4 Sundays a month. If I could do this 1 or 2 or 3 even, that'd be great. But we can't find one other volunteer to stack a fucking chair. Like that's why I'm doing this every week. I didn't do music, but I hear where you're coming from.
Well, I mean, you're so right. And I mean, and being a musician it was actually not that it was any different. It was probably the same, but a bit different, in like, it was the same amount of time, just split up, because like we would still have to rehearse at least once or twice a week.
Yeah, music's a big commitment. It's definitely a bigger commitment.
So like we still had to like, take time out of our days throughout the weeks and like, things like that. Like it was crazy. Did you guys by any chance see the Hillsong documentary? The new one?
I just watched it this week.
I haven't watched it.
Okay. Well, you don't have to see it. It is very triggering, I will say, for certain aspects of it. But one of the things that was super triggering for me was in one of the episodes, one of the ex-volunteers was talking about how she would be so burnt out working there. And the thing that the main head like pastor was always telling them to like repeat and like say was like, isn't it such a blessing that we get to do this?
We get to do this.
That we get to do this.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Relatable.
Are you fucking kidding?
Apparently that happens at scale.
Like, I'm doing this for free. My marriage is falling apart. Like, for what? Your fucking chairs? Like,
well, okay. Let's be honest.
I can see the problem is you didn't have that little dolly thing to move more than 6 chairs. If you had that, we wouldn't be having this conversation, would we, Mike?
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, okay, so my pastor that I grew up with was great. This is just one of the best people ever,
Yeah.
But a lot of the people that I met after that are pastors or were going to be pastors or were destined to become pastors, not great. And like there is a certain degree of like there's a certain degree of like you can call it confidence, you can call it narcissism or whatever, but like any job, like I'm a sales trainer and any just like in my job, like for me to stand up in front of a bunch of people and say, here, I'm about to tell you guys what you ought to think about this subject. I'm going to tell you how you ought to approach these situations that you deal with on a daily basis. Like you have to have a degree of like confidence or narcissism. It just depends on what you want to view it as. And like some of the people that I've met since my pastor are just not great people. I mean, it's not
Yep.
that they're like bad people or they're evil or they have ill intentions or anything like that. They're just not stellar, And I don't
It's
know.
like a
You
used
get
car salesman decides that their calling is being a pastor.
yeah.
That's a great way of putting it.
There's like a sense of there's almost like a sense of entitlement that comes with some of that stuff where it's like, well, of course you would do this. Like you're
Yeah.
expected to do this. By you saying that you wanted to do this once, you've burdened yourself with a holy responsibility. And if you're not
Yeah.
coping well with it, that's your problem. You need to sort that out on your own.
There
And
is like the whole call. Oh, it's like a God calling. Like I can sell Cutco knives if I want to, but God didn't call me to do that. You throw the pastor title out there, and it's like, oh, you must have a specific calling for. It's like that's probably not a great foot to start off on for someone who's like 18 years old who just decided they're going to be a whatever pastoral stuff. I forget what the major was at Liberty, but
I don't know if this is like completely off topic here, but like I have never and I mean I've always been like this since I was a kid. I have never been into people that like and I'm trying to get my words right here because like there are very specific Christians that I just don't mesh with like at all. And those are these types of people that seem like fake. They're very Chick-fil-A-ish, if that makes any sense. Where it's just like
crispy and delicious.
well, no, like it seems like when you take the apron off, it's a different world.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
What's their oh my god, they're saying it's slipping my mind. Thank you, my pleasure. There
Yeah,
we go.
my pleasure.
I was getting scary for a second.
Well, that's the thing where it's just like, because like my whole thing was like, I've always been the type of person that's like, if you're gonna be you, be you. Because once I learned, and I learned this at a very young age, and that is that God is always watching, right? So if God is always watching, then that means that I should be who I am all the time, right? Because God's always watching, right?
That
So
hit you different than it hit most people, I think.
Say what?
That message hit you differently than it hit most people. That's so funny.
Well, because
for this.
because for example, like I absolutely like despised people that I would say like, oh crap or whatever, like at church, and then people would be like, hey man, you can't say crap at church, and I'm like, why? God's everywhere. He hears me say it at home. Why
Yeah,
can't I say it here?
which is that's a better way to look at it. But what I'm laughing about is I feel like most people like God's always watching, so they're phony everywhere all the time, and when they're not phony, they're full of shame and regret and hoping that
And
they
hey
can.
man, I'm not saying I'm not full of shame and I'm not phony at some points either. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I don't have shame sometimes, but I certainly try to be myself as much as humanly possible all the time. Like I stopped like I just don't like being an act like for example, like when I was this Christian kid that would say freaking instead of fucking, like it was because I really meant freaking. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't because I meant the other word. I really meant freaking. Like you know what I mean? Like that's what it was. Like, I am that person, like, and so like I just can't I don't know, man. Like and I've talked about this on my podcast before. Like the person that like really bothers me, and we get these types of people all the time, and you know who I'm talking about. I'm sure your listeners know who I'm talking about, and I don't know if they hate them as much as I do, but the types of people that I'm talking about are like the people that like will talk about something at church that is like a secular thing, and then they will predicate it with Christian values.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, I don't
You
know
know?
if you've seen Game of Thrones. I mean, probably shouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
It's definitely got some stuff in there that,
Yeah.
I feel convicted to fast forward through. But did you see the one where they all met and fought and there was a big pile of dead guys?
Did you see the one with the titty in it? Like,
That one,
yes,
that one episode.
yes, James, I saw all 14 of them. Yep.
It's like
Um,
a comedy. It's like comedies, especially if they make the plunge to watch a comedy. It's like,
oh,
well,
dude,
there's
that
a lot
happens
of
to me.
a lot of crude humor in it, but
It happens to me all the time. I mean, I said it to a buddy. Like it happens to me. It used to happen to me all the time at church when people would find out I was a comedian, because that's the thing, you know, it's kind of been a thing recently within the past 5 years where like if you bring up you're a comedian anywhere, it like trumps any conversation. You know, unless you landed on the moon, everybody wants to know what your job is like. You know, like everybody wants to know what it's like being a comedian, you know? And so people are like, oh my gosh, like, you know, oh, who are your inspirations? Like, who do you like? And like, you know, and so this guy would always come up to me and he just, you know, I remember this one guy, he was like, oh my gosh, man, you know who's really funny? Like, I mean, he curses a lot, but Dane Cook, like he's so funny. And it's like, dude, do you not think I know what comedy is? Like, I know, like, I didn't watch Mike Warnke. Like, I know what comedy is, man. Like, you know, I'm not sitting here like, you know, oh man, I really got into comedy because I love John Crist. You know what I mean? Like, get your hand out of my dick, John. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Brian Regan. I like Brian Regan because he's clean.
because he's
No
clean.
shade at Brian
Dude.
Regan.
Not
No
because
shade
he's
at him.
funny.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing, man. Like that's the thing that bothers me, dude, is like the thing that bothers me about and again, it has nothing to do with Brian, because Brian is a killer. He is
Yeah,
a murderer, dude. That guy could get on stage for 3 hours and murder.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts where like comedians talking, right? And
yeah,
not clean comics, you know, maybe like your Tom Segura, like in Bert Kreischer, whatever. They're having a conversation, and it's like they're not they're never gonna, you know, have similar audiences, right?
right.
But, they will. And I just remember when I was in high school, really loving Brian Regan, and then trying to watch him again in my 30s and being like, this isn't for me anymore. And that's, it just doesn't hit the same way. But
Yeah,
listening to other comics talk about Brian Regan with like the highest level of respect, it's like, oh yeah, this guy, he is on another level. He can go anywhere and say anything and make people laugh. And it's a shame that he like just, maybe it's only because of the bubble I grew up in, but it's like he just got like, that was it. Oh, he's clean, therefore it's safe and you can listen to it. And
it's okay, you know, everybody listens
to
to all the rest of them, but it's okay to talk about Brian Regan.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I was gonna say is like, you know, comedians will talk about Brian because he's a murderer and he's so good, but the first thing they'll say is how funny he is. Christians, the first thing they'll say is he's clean.
Yes.
It's always kind of like billed as like I'm protecting you.
Yeah,
I'm protecting you from the fact that Game of Thrones has boobs in it, right?
right.
By telling you that, hey, just so you know, it's got some stuff. You
Yeah,
know?
In
'cause
case
I
you're
can't
one of the
read-
weaker brothers. If you're a
Because
weaker brother,
I can't read the title cards and I don't know what rating systems are and I don't know anything. Yeah, you're right, because I'm a complete imbecile. That's why.
It's like always billed as like a false guilt. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad that I enjoy this, but I am talking about
the
it.
worst.
guilty pleasure.
It's
What
the
you should
worst.
do, when
And I
people mention
feel,
like, "Oh, I've watched Game of Thrones," like, "Oh, you watched." So when you started it and that big MA came up and it's a gratuitous nudity and violence and you were okay with it. You started it after seeing that.
yeah. MA, I thought that was mom approved. Like, no, I mean, I was gonna say, more than likely, Brian was somebody that people were talking about probably like early 2000s, but
Yep.
now it's probably Nate Bargatze.
Yes.
Like
Truth.
Nate is now the guy that Christians are like, he's hilarious, but he's also like he's clean, so like,
Yeah.
it's
And
great.
he
You know,
is so you know what?
he's
This is
amazingly
what
funny.
here's what I love about Nate Bargatze. I didn't know anything about him when I threw on his first special. Maybe it was on he did it was one of those like 30-minute. No, before I watched this 30-minute one on that Netflix compilation where they had like maybe 5 or 6 comics do like 30 minutes, I saw his first special that was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I watched the whole thing, laughed my ass off, and it wasn't until like the next day that I had thought, "Oh my god, he was clean."
Yeah.
Because he was so funny that it did. Sometimes clean comics it registers quickly that like, okay, this is a clean comic.
That is the best thing about Nate.
Yep.
The best thing about Nate is that it does not register that he's being
Yes.
clean, because I think I know why, because he's talking about dark things. Like he still talks about murder, he still talks about horses dying, like he still
Yeah.
talks about like morbid things, but he doesn't swear, he doesn't talk about sex, he doesn't talk about things like that, but like he will get to like he will get to the line and dance on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is great, but anyway, not to keep talking about comedy and bore
Well, can I
Casey.
can I tell you my favorite comedy story that
Sure.
that applies to my life?
Are you kidding? Yeah, I love it.
So I work for a company that is not necessarily a Christian company,
Okay.
but we do
Lifeway
say
Christian
prayer
bookstore.
and pledge to the flag before we do any meetings or anything, right? It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that's always there, and it's kind of irritating. Very conservative company, as might be the way to say it.
Okay.
And there's a comedian that plays guitar and stuff like that. That's a Christian, and I think his name is Tim Hawkins.
Yikes.
I'm not familiar with his work,
I
but
am.
he's like a musical
You are.
comedian, all right?
Uh-huh.
So usually we have like once a year we have like this distributor convention where people come in from all over the world. A lot of them are Christians. And so, they'll try to book a keynote speaker or somebody to come in that's an entertainer to sort of like kick off or end the whole thing, right? They thought they were booking Tim Hawkins, but they booked a different comedian named Tim Wilson. Are you familiar with his work?
No, I don't think so.
So he was on Bob and Tom a lot, and like he was another like guy that played the guitar and sang funny songs and stuff. But this guy's like a lifelong Roadhouse comedian.
I know Tom Wilson. He's who's also a comic. He played Biff in Back to the Future as well.
Okay.
But yeah, Tim Wilson. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, so they got the two mixed up. So the guy that
That's
shows
crazy.
up, Tim Wilson, not a clean comic at all.
Oh God.
Like maybe like in the rankings for like some of the dirtiest, and he's sitting at our table at this like banquet thing that we're having beforehand, and obviously I think he's since passed away, unfortunately, but like he's sitting there at this table talking to the people that run the company and getting a very clear picture of like this not being his crowd.
Oh no.
And the dude gets on
What am I doing
stage
here moment?
Oh, and he's got 30-45 minutes to fill.
Oh.
And was kind of like told beforehand, like, hey, just so you know, it's a conservative crowd, try not to swear, just do your best. And he tried. You got to give him credit. Like he tried to like keep it somewhat clean and stuff like that, but he just could. It's just not in his nature. It's not his act.
Wow.
And dude, almost nobody laughed the entire time. They just sat and scowled at this guy while he played his guitar and sang like filthy songs. And it was the most awkward thing I've ever seen. He had to be like so excited to get out of that room.
Oh
But
no.
I'm sure they paid him well. So hopefully it was worth it.
Corporate gigs, I hear, pay, but
They do.
sounds like
I
a
mean,
nightmare.
one of my I did a corporate gig for a company, a very well-known Coca-Cola brand, named Coca-Cola. And it was like it was essentially like they were doing like some like retreat or whatever, where like all the people from all the Coca-Colas like were coming out from around the world, and they were like doing like a retreat, and like they were doing the trust falls and like all this
Oh
stuff.
God.
And then the manager, who by the way was not even there, like Mr. O'Cola or whatever, was not even there. And he or she, I'm not sure who the manager is, booked some comedians and had us all go in and do comedy, and these people were just not having it. I mean, and by the time it got to me,
Ugh.
and not which and also I will say this, there were female comedians there, and it was good for them because they were very respectful because they were females. They, however, were like, oh, he's a guy, we can curse him out. You know what I mean? So they were just like, so they just started cursing me out, calling me all kinds of names and I mean, it doesn't matter. I already have their money, but like, I mean, it's, I'll just say what I said. I'll
You get
just say
paid
what I
ahead of
said.
time.
I ended the show and I said, fuck Coca-Cola. I'm drinking Pepsi for the rest of my life.
Oh my God. Corporate gig, and every comic talks about how like that's why people must do them, right? The money's got to be good, but
It's so
it
good.
sounds so bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
There's a
Yeah.
perfect intersection there. A corporate get together is a lot like church,
Mhm.
where sociopaths are on their best behavior. They've put on their best like family man face to come out and shake hands and say it's great to
Yeah.
see you, brother. Happy to fellowship with you, which is a dead giveaway for church fakes, right? Like if they use
Yes.
church words, that's
Yes.
how you know like this guy is
Yep.
a phony.
I
Yep.
feel like the difference between corporate and church is at corporate events, everyone's like just really excited about getting fucked up on somebody else's dollar and maybe cheating on their wife that night.
I mean, I will say this. I have done corporate shows that have been so fun. But they have all had alcohol.
Yeah. That helps.
So but then again, I've had horrible shows that have had alcohol. So I mean, it just depends. I mean, comedy is really strange because like you want them to be a little bit drunk, but not too drunk because then it's going to be disruptive,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And the thing about me is like I have gotten to a point in my life where I don't suffer fools. And at least on stage. And like I'm relatively good at roasting, people and things like that. And I've relatively been good at being like, hey, like I'll give you your attention, but that's it. Like this is over now. I'm going to move on, and then after, if it happens again, then it's when it starts not getting fun. Then it's when, cuz I don't like being the serious guy. I don't like having to tell someone to kick someone out. I just don't like
and
that.
it kills
It's not
it
fun.
must fuck the vibe up so bad too
It
if you
sure
have to do
does.
that.
Yeah, because then you have to try to find a way to either get them back on your side, unless they were being such a disruption that the crowd
Everyone
is
just goes wild.
so happy that they're gone.
Yeah.
And then you're like, Jesus Christ, thank God they're gone, and then you just move on. But then sometimes it gets violent, which it has happened before. In fact, I will. Here's an exclusive for you guys. It has gotten violent for once. One time there was a guy. I was making fun of him, um, and I was making fun of his friend. And I kept asking this guy. Part of this bit that I was doing is I kept asking him to get up from his seat. And the third time I asked him, he said he didn't want to get up because he had back problems. And his friend was like, don't ask him to get up. He has back problems and all this stuff. And I was like, well, if he had back
Maybe what if he
problems,
had alopecia? That would have been even worse.
I mean, who knows? But like, I was like, if he didn't, I basically said if he didn't have a working back, that's fine. He does have a working mouth. He could have just told me when I asked him to stand up the first time. And so, and then he got really mad at that, mostly because everybody thought that was funny. And so he got very mad and he wanted to protect his friend. And the guy just stood up and he tried to like fight me essentially. And he was like, do you know who that guy is? And I go, no, I don't. And he goes, he killed John F. Kennedy. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, man, he killed John F. Kennedy. And I go, okay, all right, man. Like, you realize, like, we've been looking for this guy for a while, right? Like, and so, like, I mean, and this guy is just not having it because I'm freaking killing this. I mean, in the room. And this guy is just getting madder and madder. And so security's coming up and like grabbing him, and he's fighting security. Now here's the thing, I didn't know this until I was like closer to leaving, but the guy
was George H.W. Bush.
No.
Oh, okay.
But I
he
saw
actually had MS.
No, like I actually saw the guy in like I wasn't on a stage or anything, and so like I actually saw the guy. He was about, like, no lie, he was maybe 5'2". He was very short. And I was like, man, that's kind of weird that like a short guy wanted to like start a fight with me. Like he was like, oh, come on, man, like I'll, and so he was like kind of like fighting the security guard for a bit. And then I heard from the security guard after the show, because the security guard was like, so what do you want to do? Because that's the thing that happens at, whenever all these things happen, like a heckler gets removed or whatever, like they're always like, hey, so what do you want to do? Like, do you want us to kick them out? Do you want us to bring them back in? That kind of thing.
Why ask you? Wouldn't the best option always be to remove them completely and not let them back in?
Well, this is usually after the show is done, and like you're like meeting people afterwards, so it's just like, and so I was just like, I mean, I guess it's fine, whatever. What I didn't know was the guy was waiting outside, like, because he wanted to fight with me. He wanted to fight me like outside of where I was performing in this hotel. And so he was waiting outside with his family. Waiting outside with his family, waiting to fight me. With his family, who was completely okay with it. Who was completely
certifiably insane.
Yeah. And the guy who had a bad back, he was standing and completely fine, I guess. And
he had his baby in like a carrier on the front of his chest.
Yeah, he was just there, like being all proud that he killed John F. Kennedy and everything. And so yeah, and like apparently he had talked to the manager and like said that he wanted to sue the hotel because I made jokes about ageism, and I was like, dude, I was making jokes about everybody, first of all. Like, I wasn't making jokes about just because you're old doesn't mean I'm not gonna make jokes about you. Like, it's like, I mean, anyway, it's just wild. It's wild, man. I mean, people are wild, some people be wild. And
it doesn't make sense that these people, like, that's why I'm always blown away by people who go to comedy shows
Yeah.
and then get bent out of shape. Like if you're going to a comedy show, you better be the kind of person who doesn't get bent out of shape.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he had just had too many. I don't know what it was, but I mean, they had seemed like they had been drinking a lot because
Yeah.
they were very vocal towards the beginning. One of the things that I like to do, uh this is a thing that I always do when people are like heckling, uh is I'll just like respond to the person. Like I'll just like stop and like kind of respond, cuz usually that kind of shocks them. And then I go, "Yeah, did you not realize I was a person? Like I'm not your TV. When you speak, I hear you." You know? and and then usually that wins the room, and then that gets them to shut up for the rest of the show. So I did that, and that worked for like maybe 5 minutes, and then it started happening again and again and again. And
Oh
after,
God, that must be so awful.
yeah, and by the fifth time I was saying things that were like flat out like I mean they were just like even the room was like, all right man, like we get it. Like this is not nice, but also like we don't like these people either, like they're kind of ruining the show, so I get it. But
Dude,
because that's the thing is like if someone's ruining a show, people are on your side.
yeah. Oh, I bet.
Unless unless like it gets to a point where you're saying something extraordinarily offensive, which I would never do that, because I'm just trying to make people laugh. That's all I'm trying to do. I would never be extraordinarily offensive. I would never say something mean, like offensively mean to somebody. I would
We're
never
having like a Kramer moment.
Yeah, I would never do something like that. Yeah.
I
Of course
feel
not.
like it doesn't get said enough, but like, hey, if you're listening to this and you're over the age of, let's say, 22, and you're still threatening to fight people, no one thinks you're cool. Like, you suck. Everyone thinks you're pathetic. If you're standing outside a comedy club with your kids being like, Daddy's gonna show this guy, like, go home and reevaluate. It's so pathetic.
Well, not
God.
only that, like the fight wouldn't have been much of anything because like I'm not a fighter. Like I would have just let you punch me until you got tired.
I know that feeling. I don't have a fighting bone in my body. Anytime push would come to shove, I'd be like, I need a friend.
Yeah.
I need a friend to help.
Because the truth is, like, the guy was 5'2" and he was old. He didn't seem like he had a hard punch. So I would have just let him have it out. Like I would have just been like Homer when he became a boxer. Like just like keep punching me until you get tired and knock yourself out.
Yeah,
You
like
know what I
Charlie.
mean? Like and then I would just win by default because you got tired.
That's I love it.
Dude, what age were you saved?
That's so funny. I was saved at 8, and then 9, and then 10, and then 12, and then 13, and then again at 14, and then a few times at
14 and a
15.
half, 14 and
then,
three quarters.
You were extra sure.
Yeah, I not only extra sure. It's I've gotten saved so many times. It's kind of ridiculous, man. Like it's something I get kind of scared about, to be honest. Like I'm still kind of scared about it.
You re-up every once in a while. You apply
Every
that
Yeah,
SPF again. Salvation prevents fire.
Is that what it is?
That was we played that as an outro in one of our episodes.
Oh,
When I was
yeah.
at Liberty, there was a rapper at Liberty who went by Humble Tip. Tip was to increase praise, if you must know.
Oh
So,
my god.
a lot of
we
just
didn't
the
cover
tip
that
joke.
part.
No, we
God.
didn't. I must have forgot about that. So his like so he was a recruiter for Liberty, and he would drive a van that had like his face on the side of it, and he would blast his own music while driving around handing out recruiting materials and shit like that. And yeah, his big one was SPF, which was Salvation Prevents Fire, and it was like something about he died on the cross. I put my SPF on. It's on YouTube still. You could definitely find it after this if you want.
Yeah, I know
No,
you don't listen to praise music anymore, but
No, I'm
But
good.
you do like it when it's got a gospel vibe, and I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the gospel vibe you're looking for, but
I don't
Might
think
be worth a
so.
chance. Yeah.
I'm good. The what's it called? What so it's funny because like I one of the things that intrigued me about you guys is that you went to Liberty because like I remember when I was in high school, I wanted to go to Liberty so bad. Like
Yeah.
Liberty was like the
Christian Mecca.
mecca.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Mount Everest for Christians, like that's like the place. Like you're like if you want to learn about Jesus or cucking people, like that's the place, you know.
Jerry Jr. had Cuck 101 classes.
He sure did. Um I would wake up every morning at 8 a.m. to learn how to watch my wife fuck other men while I'm in the corner crying.
That you sadly jerking off with the tears just dripping off the tip of your dick.
I feel like there was probably a lot of like after conversations with Jerry and Becky where he was like, "Is he busy tomorrow night?" I feel like I was too drunk to really enjoy it.
Oh man. Jesus, man. Dude, if I got to tell you, if I wasn't saved 1,000 times before, I'm definitely needing to get saved after this.
Yeah.
But but anyway, so that's always been like in high school that was like the place that I wanted to go. And I remember when I was maybe like ninth grade or like 10th grade or something, I went to college for a weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
College for a weekend, dude. Some motherfucker stole one of my hoodies when I had a college for a weekend kid stay in my dorm room.
Really?
Oh yeah, I want to kill that kid still.
What year would have this have been?
Oh no. I don't remember. It was like maybe 2004, maybe 2005.
Dude, it's possible I was there at the same time for a college. I'm trying to
Really?
think of when I would have gone because I went did I go in 2007 and I went for a college for a weekend and probably a couple years. So I probably went for a college for a weekend in 2005 too.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that like the time so the time that I went that I was there, like I don't know if it was like because it was college for a weekend or what, but like and Liberty wanted to be like this is what it's like every week here. But they were like third day plays and like David Crowder band opens, like,
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. But there was like concerts and like stuff like that, and the concerts were cool and whatever. I didn't like anybody that played except David Crowder. I thought he was pretty cool at the time. And But I remember specifically being so bummed, like personally, and like and of course no offense to you guys because it has nothing to do with you. It's just the school that you went. But
I'm gonna
I
be
re-
so offended. I can already feel it. Go ahead.
no, not at all.
I'm just
It is
kidding.
no, but it's like I guess it's like a never meet your heroes if your heroes are a school. But like but like I always thought it was like this like amazing like place, and then I went and I was just like the people here kind of suck. Like I nobody here's like I don't really feel like a community. Like it's not really like I feel like kind of lost here. Like I don't know if I like it.
You must have stayed on East Campus.
Maybe.
Was it
But
were they like were they almost
colder.
like apartments? Were they like almost like apartments?
Yeah,
And yeah,
it's exactly what it
big
was.
big feud between East Campus and the rest of us. We were
Oh,
circle.
really?
We were on the circle, so we had like these army barracks that had. I mean, they were basically made out of metal, like in
Okay.
cinder blocks, and then
Cool.
that's where the poor kids stayed. And
I would
the
love
rich,
that.
the rich kids stayed in East Campus when those are the kids whose parents were paying for it, or the kids who didn't
Interesting.
understand the concept of student loans. Lots of those kids too.
Okay, so that's why I didn't like anybody there.
Yeah, it's possible because then you go.
No,
to,
that's entirely, dude. All of my, I'm not kidding. All of my friends are poor because I relate to poor people because I'm poor. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like I get it. Like I don't relate to people that like come from money and like richy rich type people. I don't
Well,
believe
you stayed on the right campus because it allowed you to dodge that bullet, so it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there you go. But I ended up going to another Christian college named Bryan College. I don't know if you guys have heard of that college.
I
But,
haven't.
It sounds poor.
Yeah, it's in Tennessee. It was started by a guy named Brian.
Who's
And
the guy who the life of Brian was based off of?
I
We would
wish it
use
would have
his
been
last
so much
name.
would have been so much cooler. No, it was a Christian. It was a Christian college. And dude, I went there for a semester and I hated it so much. I went there to be a music major, and all of the music that they had me learning was like kind of classical stuff, and just stuff where I was just like, what's the point of this? Like, what am I even learning? Like, and like, you're teaching me to sing the way you want me to sing, not the way that I should learn how to sing. Because my whole thing was like, I grew up, and you guys can kind of relate because like we've kind of become friends online and things like that. So like I know
Yeah.
that you guys are into like scene music, you guys are into rock and roll and things like that. Like that's the kind of music that I've been into my whole life. Like I've been into rock music, I've been into like the Warped Tour pop punk bands and
Oh yeah.
that kind of stuff, the scene music. That's the kind of music that I like. And the music that I write now is very alt indie type of stuff, Jack's Mannequin, Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, stuff like that. And so, uh, you know, I just kind of saw that and I was just like, you're kind of like teaching me to become this singer that I don't want to be,
Mhm.
and like I want to be unique. Like I want to be a different, kind of singer. And so like I just flat out just stopped going to class and I neglected class. And so I found I had a roommate that was in my dorm, in my dorm floor, not in my dorm room, but in my dorm floor. His name was Jason. If you're listening to this, you're definitely not, but if you are, I freaking love you, dude. I still love this guy. If he called me today, it would be like nothing had ever changed. I mean, this guy is awesome. We would skip class together every day. we would be we would be just so negligent, and it was just awful. But it was awesome. Like at the same time, like it was like, and like he taught me about music that I didn't know, because I grew up in such a Christian bubble. Because like really all I knew was like Michael W. Smith and DC Talk, and the heaviest music I knew was like Skillet,
Yeah.
1,000 Foot Crutch,
Still going
Yep.
hard.
yeah, like
They
hey,
won't quit.
yeah, man. Hey, man, it's heavy because they spell crutch with a K, and so like stuff like that, and like, and don't get me wrong, like it was certainly serviceable at a time of my life. Like it was certainly a good at the time.
Oh yeah.
But he was like, "Hey, dude, have you ever heard of Tooth and Nail Records?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" And like he kind of started showing me bands like Anberlin and Emery and Showbread and really cool, like, yeah, Tooth and Nail's a Christian label, but like they were doing unique sounding things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, so it's like, yeah, like there's that. And then, and also this was also at a time in 2007, 2008, where there were kind of like the Switchfoot Christians, like the Switchfoot Christian bands, where it was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, where like, because Switchfoot and Reliant K and like bands like that were being played at Abercrombie and Fitch, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, and like at like Hollister, and things like that. Like they were played on MTV, so people did know "Be My Escape." People knew those songs. And which is great, so yeah, man. I mean, and to this day, I mean, there's probably still bands like that. I mean, no, they definitely don't talk about it, but I certainly feel that 21 Pilots is very Christian leaning. Judging by their lyrics, it seems like they're very spiritual. They don't talk about that stuff, which is something that I really respect that they don't talk about. But it's one of those things where it's just like, I don't know, man, somebody that didn't at least grow up Christian wouldn't think like this, especially at their age.
Exactly. That's like
You know what I mean?
Manchester Orchestra. kind of
Yeah.
falls into that.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I know Andy Hull. I think he grew up a pastor's kid, actually.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's like,
he says that in a song, I believe. He says, I grew up a son of a pastor of a baby or something. I forget what it was.
yeah.
I Some song in their in the I forget the album. It's like a watercolor album. It's hard to describe a
I
Manchester
don't,
Orchestra album because like a lot of it's like describing a dream. You know what
yeah.
I mean? You're like it was like, you were there, but like you kind of looked like Charlie Sheen, but like when you would smile, like you look like Curious George, and then like you would speak, but you sounded like Steve Urkel. And then and then people are like, all right, I mean, I guess.
And then every time you
And
start to explain a dream to somebody, after 2 seconds, you're like, why am I doing this? It's not.
yeah,
This is nothing's coming out the way I wanted to. I'm
yeah.
realizing how little I actually remember about this.
Yeah. No, it's so true. But yeah, anyway, that's so I kind of that kind of was like the beginnings of like kind of discovering, new music and things like that. And also that this was a time when like I think it's a little bit easier for people to not be in a bubble like how it was for us because with streaming now, it's a little bit easier to kind of listen to whatever you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your parents aren't vetting your CDs and going through
Yeah.
your collection and throwing them out. Now it's just all on your phone.
And you're
Yeah,
literally
dude.
like restricted to either stuff from Family Christian Bookstore or
Mhm.
the Christian or faith based section at like FYE.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, like you guys want to hear some tea? Like I was the kid who would get secular albums and I would get my parents to buy them because the band name sounded Christian.
Yeah.
What was one of them?
One of them, I'll name a bunch of them. Newfound Glory,
Yep.
Saves the Day, 9 Inch Nails, 3
Nine Inch
Days
Nails.
Grace, 3 Days Grace.
The nails that went into Christ's arms were
Yeah,
9
they were
inches.
9 inches. 3 Days Grace. Story of the Year. I don't know how I came up with that one, but I'm sure I made
Jesus
something
Christ
up.
was the story of the year.
He
Back
was
in
the story of the year.
33 AD.
AD
Yeah.
0.
Which, by the way, this is just a personal take as a musician. 30 Seconds to Mars gets a lot of credit, but they are just doing what Story of the Year did maybe 5 years before and got all the credit for it. I think Story of the Year is so much better than they are.
What's this?
Sure,
Jared Leto,
Jared.
such a dreamboat.
Yeah, he's a 50. Yeah, dude, that guy's 50. Isn't that
What?
crazy? He's 50 years old. Isn't that nuts?
Shut the fuck up. I
Dude,
had no
he's
idea he was
50 years
50.
old. He's
Speak-
That
50.
doesn't make sense. He still has like child eyes.
Okay, and he has speed bump abs. Like
I don't believe that there's not some genetically modified action going on here.
there has to be. Well, I mean, it's Hollywood, man.
You
Like
could
at the
butter
end of the
those
day,
abs like corn on the cob. Just watch it melt. You know?
He
I mean,
also
there's-
seems like the
it's Hollywood.
absolute worst. I
Yeah.
can't think of any he seems like probably the most annoying person to be in a room with out of any actor ever.
I've
I
seen
got
That's
it.
my take.
I gotta be honest, dude, and this is my personal thought about actors that are good. I think actors that are good have to be weird. And that's because like and if you ever notice like whenever they talk like in interviews, like they have these isms, where they're just like, yeah, like I was just like thinking like, and you're just like, who the hell talks like that?
Yeah, you're
Like,
not
who,
real.
like
You're fake.
you're not
You
a
have to have
real
no
person.
sense of self.
Yeah, like who? And it's because the only thing that they know is putting their body into a vessel that is something else.
Yeah.
That's
It's
all
like
they know.
your identity is adrift.
Yeah, exactly. You are something else and you are not you anymore. You are never you, you know? Because when you think about it, the people that are great at interviews, people that are great on panels, that are great at being celebrities, are people that are not really great actors. They're not really acting. They're like Seth Rogen doesn't act. His name's just Greg in this movie. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, that's really all it is, you know? But I'm
It's
okay
good.
with that. And you're okay with that. Because when you go to a Seth Rogen movie, that's what you want. You know, when you go to a John Cena movie, that's what you want. You know, like when I saw like I and sure enough, there are definitely people that can wow you. Of course, you know, like for example, like John Cena just, you know, wowed the pants off of me when I saw Peacemaker. You know, like he had like some crazy emotional scenes and things like that. But he's also a professional wrestler. Like his whole thing is like I have to be emotional to nosebleeds in Madison Square Garden. Like of course he's good at acting. Like that's literally what it is, you know?
Is there something to the idea that like, because I'm thinking of like some of my favorite comedians, and I'm not sure. Like I love Tim Dillon. I'm not sure I
Oh
want
yeah.
to meet Tim Dillon.
Mhm.
Like I feel like it's gonna be a bad experience if I meet him. Is that
He'll
true
just
of
be mean to
comics?
you.
I don't think so. I mean, it depends. I mean, it's certainly, you know, I think, you know, the thing is like people are awkward, you know? Like it's just like everybody has like awkward moments, you know, and like nobody, you know, nobody's going to ever say the perfect thing, you know, like it's never going to go exactly how you think it's going to go, like, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't really know how to exactly answer this question because like it's one of those things where like I I think you're better off meeting someone like after they've done something, like after they've done like a show or something where it's like, "Hey man, like I know why you're here," like that kind of thing, as opposed to like if you meet them at a Starbucks or something, you know, there's more chances that you're going to be like, that was a weird experience. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't expecting you to be there. They weren't expecting that a fan would show up at a Starbucks and be like, hey, man, can I get a picture with you? You know, like they were just wanting to get a coffee, you know?
That
And
makes
so,
sense.
yeah, like it's just, you know, a lot of people, like, I think people just don't realize that, like, the people that they look up to are also people, you know, and if you were treated like like if you were treated like that too, it would also be weird for you.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you'd just be like, hey man, like, you know, which is why, for example, I will never talk to someone that's a celebrity if they are eating or if they're with their kids ever.
Yeah, it feels like that makes, I mean, I guess I'm the kind of person who would see if I saw someone, if I ever saw someone that I thought was a celebrity, I would never be able to convince myself maybe that they actually were. I'd be like, there's no way. I'm going to go up and say hi to somebody and it's not going to be them and this is going to be awful.
You will
But
follow them up the stairs and sniff at them, though.
yeah, I'll sniff their
Yeah,
butts on the stairwell, of course.
sure
I do.
will. Sure will.
I
Daddy
just
likey. That's what he says.
I
That's what
just
he
hang out
says.
there. I hang out in stairwells, and as soon as someone goes up the stairs, I pull out right after them and get real close. And then it's just like it's cool. It's cool.
Someone
I
didn't
smell
shower today.
I smell Theo Von's butthole.
That
You don't
mullet
even have
and
to get that
musk.
close for Vaughn. Theo Vaughn, you can be like 3 steps behind and still know.
That's true, man. You can always smell the Rat King coming. It's true.
Dude, I feel like there's still a million questions, but
Dude, I have a million answers. I could be here forever. I'm here. I can also do more episodes.
yeah.
If your audience likes me enough, I will keep coming back.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Dude, let's real quick. Let's figure. I want to hear about like you stopped going to school, like, or you kind of dropped out ish.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did it officially. When did you get that comedy bug and start drifting into comedy?
So I'll kind of speed through it. So I dropped out of school and then I ended up doing a kind of like a trade school kind of thing where I took a uh at Calvary Chapel they have a program called Ocean's Edge School of Worship, and they had a program where you could learn 4 years of Berklee School of Music in 1 year. And so I did that. it was the best year and the worst year of my life at the same time. That's the best way that I like to say it. Because I learned so much, but it was so hard. Um, because it was a lot of practicing, it was a lot of homework, it was a lot of classes, but it was awesome at the same time. And I wrote music. I started my own project, and then I wrote an album in 2015 called Dreamer under my band name Mike Valdes and the Noise, which you can find, and you can find that anywhere. And yeah, I wrote that with a couple of friends of mine that helped me produce it. But yeah, I played all the instruments and sang, and I uh, and wrote the songs, everything. And then in 2015, I moved to Los Angeles to just do the acting thing, because I've always been an actor as well. I've always kind of
Okay.
been an all around performer. So I've always been an actor. I've always been a singer songwriter, all that stuff. I was never a comedian. It was always something I was into, but it wasn't something I was like, never thought that I could do. And then I decided after I met with a manager that I wanted to do an open mic, because she told me to take improv classes and I couldn't afford them. And so I started doing stand up, because stand up was free.
Yep.
And she said, as long as you're on a stage, I don't care what you're doing. As long as you're on a stage and you're keeping your creativity sharp and you're performing, I don't care what you're doing. And so I said, okay, great. And so I just kept doing it, and I didn't care that I sucked. I just kept doing it because I felt like I had to. And I feel like that's the only way that I would have kept doing it.
So you just
Um,
powered through like bombing a bunch initially.
yeah,
Like,
the
you didn't have
only
that you didn't have that initial like. I feel like there's some comics who are like, yeah, I did it and it went great, and they didn't experience a bomb until like maybe a few months later. But
Yeah, I
what
mean,
was
it wasn't even that I was, and to be fair, I it wasn't that I was bombing. Like
okay?
I was always, and I was always, I don't even want to say that I was pretty good. Like I was like, because even if I looked at videos now, like I would think that I suck, but there's laughs happening. Like, and the thing is, I personally think that what it was that I was very likable. But that comes from being a performer my whole life. That comes from, in a way, having skipped the line that a lot of comedians hadn't done yet.
You think
You
it was like
know?
you just kind of had confidence going out there. You didn't feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable on stage, and that
Yeah,
resonated.
really all it was so essentially the only thing I didn't have were jokes. That was it. That was it.
Something
That
you
was
think
it.
about, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny, man.
Like it sounds funny, but like that's just true. Like that's just what it was. Like the only thing I didn't have was jokes. And like sure, like some jokes hit and whatever, but like I was kind of hitting a lot of the stuff with just my charm, and that was pretty much it. And I got that through having always been a performer, having always been on stage, and just never being afraid of that. And I'll never forget this, man. I had done a bunch of shows, and then one random show, this lady came up to me, and she just said, "Hey, you're really funny, but I don't know who you are. You should tell me who you are when you're on stage. You should talk more about yourself."
Huh?
And then I was like, okay. And then I started getting more personal. And then the second I started getting more personal, things started clicking.
It makes
Because
sense.
I never thought that talking about like, being a Christian or having an innocent upbringing, having, being in a Christian bubble, like anything like that. I just didn't think it was relatable,
Hmm.
you know. And then I realized it could who cares if it's relatable? Just the fact that it happened to someone is kind of funny because it's crazy.
It. Yep.
You know?
That's the we're still riding that bus here a little bit. Where it's just like
Yeah.
that's everyone wants to. For people who grew up in it, especially, there's like that. Oh my god, it's so nice to find people who get it. But my experience with people, this is obviously on a stage or in comedy, but there's a hesitancy to want to get into it with some people for sure. But my experience has been when people find out about your upbringing, like, oh yeah, homeschooled, super church, like everyone's fascinated. Like I need to hear more about that. People find it very interesting. And if you mix it with humor,
it's like we were talking earlier, like you're drawn to, like there's so much stuff in front of us right now that feels like forced and fake and phony, that like you're just drawn to someone who's genuine. Yeah. And like just, that's been a pattern for me over the years a lot, where I've just been drawn to like certain people that I listen to and stuff, because like, even if I don't have a lot in common with them, or I don't feel like I agree with a lot of what they say, like I feel pretty positive that I'm getting like the unfiltered version of what they think or what they believe. And that is appealing in and of itself, in an age where everything feels like sterilized and orchestrated,
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah, man. Well, let's bow our heads and close our eyes. I'm kidding.
It's so funny. It's funny that you say that. I just said that. I guess it was the other night.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord.
We should close out an episode with the prayer Olympics and just see who can do the best throwback evangelical prayer to close out the evening.
I wanted to talk to you about this. What is the weirdest opening prayer you have ever heard? Because here's the thing. Like, have you ever been a part of like improv, like improv prayer circles, where it's like a rap battle, but it's like people like praying?
Yeah. Yes.
And like people are trying to like one up each other praying, so they'll just be like, dear Father God, like holiest Father God that is up in the clouds, and dearest Father God, holy of the Bible that is in my heart right now. Like,
Dude, there was one guy in my church that had like a bit of a lisp, and everybody picks a term for God that they repeat 600 times during their public prayer.
Father God,
whether it's Father this, Father that, and his was precious Lord and Heavenly Father. Just like, and it all just kind of like molded it. It molded like 6 words into 3. It's like precious Lord and Heavenly Father, and he would just say it over and over again, and you're just like, dude, it feels like we're fluffing up a 250 word essay or a Blackboard post.
Of course, I want to put it to your listeners. Please write into Growing Up Christian. Let them know what is the weirdest opening prayer you've ever heard. But I think I have every single person.
I can't wait.
That is, and it was somebody. We're all just going, oh, dear Father, dear Lord, and dear God, and one guy just goes, hi, Daddy.
Oh no!
Are you? Hi, Daddy? What?
Dude, I wish I could say that I did not hear that myself before.
Hi, Daddy?
That prayer group that I had mentioned previously, there was someone had started talking about how the Bible says Abba Father. Abba is like an endearing term. It's like saying daddy. So like people I heard that too, man. Daddy God. You're like,
Daddy
I'm
God.
not here for that.
Dude, the logical next step in this arms race is senpai.
Jeez,
dear, sweet, heavenly senpai.
Man, we have to. What's the okay? I know you guys are probably trying to end this, but we have to think of like what is the weirdest. We have to talk about what is the weirdest possible thing we can open one with. Can we say, okay, dearest Master Daddy. Can we say that? Dearest Master Daddy. Is that the weirdest? What's weirder than dearest Master Daddy?
What are the masters called in putt play?
I don't know. Dearest Master Daddy. I'm trying to think of like what's weirder than that. Senpai is really good actually. Dearest Master Senpai.
Sovereign Senpai.
Sweet.
Sovereign.
Sweet Sovereign Senpai. It's technically not wrong, but it sounds so disgusting.
Fill us up. We want to feel you in this place.
Gosh, man, can we please talk about why we have to sing songs about all of that disgusting stuff at 9 a.m? Like, do I really have to read a projector that says he's coming on the clouds at 9 a.m?
Yeah, it's a lot. The lyrics, we earlier on in this, we did a couple of games with people where it was like I picked two actual, it was like a couple of rounds, and there was like two real worship lyrics and then just one sexual innuendo I made up, and make people guess which ones were an actual worship lyric and which one, or make people guess the pretend one. And it was,
I don't think anybody got it right.
No, it was difficult for people.
Some of them are bad.
What do you think is the most sexual CCM song?
Oh my God. I feel like I make some up in my head too much to like actually be able to remember. It's been so long since I've been in like the CCM.
Does Rockfist count?
Rockfist is good. Rockfist is good.
I think Skillet has a couple that are very BDSM-y.
So Skillet has one. Okay. So Skillet not only has so many bondage songs. Skillet, the lead singer of Skillet has a new project because this bondage song is so bondage heavy that the members of Skillet were like, you have to start your own fucking project now. We can't
releasing this on FetLife.
Yeah, like we can't even sing this song in our band. So this song is called I forget exactly, goodness. I'm gonna look it up right now, but the name of the band is called Fight the Fury. That's the name of the band.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard? I
feel like I know.
I think I heard the single.
Okay. The single is called Dominate Me. Okay.
No, come on. I did not realize what's going on here.
That is what John Cooper is saying. So anyway, the chorus is let's see. Oh my gosh. Break me, I need to feel ya. Take me, I need to feel ya. Save me, I need to feel ya. I need to feel you. This is how you dominate me. Every part of me. Yeah, it's okay. Dominate me. Teach me how to
I like the consent part.
Teach me how to misbehave. I can be your slave. Yeah, it's okay. Dominate me. It's okay. Dominate me.
You know,
like the nonchalant reference to slavery.
So basically, he's giving consent to Jesus to piss on him and beat him.
He sounds like a lot like slavery wasn't so bad kind of a guy in this one too.
It's a piss on me, beat me, Jesus song.
Yeah, try it out.
Try it out. Yeah, he's a try it out guy.
I love it, dude. We have to send this to YMH. We have to.
Please do.
It's a piss on me, beat me, Jesus song.
These were some that I had pulled from. This is from a while back, but it was. Did you know Phillips, Craig, and Dean?
Oh yeah, them? Yeah. They had a really sexual one.
Till every drop is gone.
Till every drop is gone. That's what it was. Yeah.
And then there's Tasha Cobbs. You stretch me wide. I'm bigger because of you.
Yeah.
It's like I always would have been better without those lyrics.
Yeah, I always thought this, even when I was like a little kid. I always felt very uncomfortable when I would hear Jackie Velasquez, I get on my knees.
Yeah, anything about being on your knees. I'm on my knees waiting for Jesus to come, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, all right.
It's terrible.
I mean, I'm 13. My body's exploding. Like,
I'm gonna ruin my Sunday shirt.
Here's one. Here's another one from
Sunday
Pillar.
Slacks are gone.
One more from Pillar was, now you pull me apart. I'm suspended in you. Stretch me bigger.
Oh my god!
Why?
They're in the suspension games. It's pretty sweet.
That's really crazy, man. How like what's wild is like how and this is another thing too that I noticed is like Christian pop is more about like filleting Jesus, right? Because it's about like, oh, we want to make Jesus come, and like, like we want to make him feel good, and like all this stuff.
He won't
But
come back
then,
until he feels good.
but then rock and roll Christian music is about bondage with Jesus. It's because they're heavy. You know what I mean? So it's like, dude, fucking fist me, Jesus. Like, you know what
Use me. Use me. All of me.
That's what I'm saying. Throw in my rock
gag
fist.
me.
Your rock fist.
Gag me,
God.
Jesus.
My body is yours. Use it. Use it. Have your will in me, Daddy. Oh, we're back to Daddy.
Hi, Daddy. Yeah. Anyway,
Best Christian rock album. What's your favorite?
Creed. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. Best Christian rock album. Yikes, that's tough. I mean, I really liked Phenomenon by Thousand Foot Crutch a lot when it came out.
That was a good one.
That was a really good one.
Was that the one with Rockfist, or was that the one after?
It was the one with Rockfist.
Dude, I throw up my Rockfist here and there.
Yeah, but to be fair, I will say I'm not counting Reliant K, because I don't put Reliant K in like the rock genre. I kind of put them in like a alternative. You know.
Yeah, and I'll stand by Reliant K till the day I die. They're fantastic still.
They're still like my favorite, and not to mention like they're like super cool now. Like they've have you guys heard of Semlar? Yeah, so like she's great. Grace is so great, and she writes such great music. And like, I don't know if you guys have heard her story about like, you know, how she started covering Reliant K on TikTok, but like
I saw her on John Steingard's podcast.
Yeah. So like slowly people from Reliant K started covering, like helping her cover the songs and things like that. And then they heard her music because her album went #1 in the Christian charts, and it like what was controversial because it had curse words in it and it was LGBTQ affirming and stuff like that. And now Reliant K has her opening for them.
Yeah,
so
I think they just wrapped up their tour.
Yeah, so I'm just like now I like Reliant K even more. You know?
Yeah, good for her. I mean,
it's
just like great to see somebody like that's got to be a dream. That's got to be like a dream come true.
It's great to see good people win,
and
like that's just what it is.
Kind of throw their middle finger to the way things are. I think was what was so cool about that one too.
This is the first time good people have won since 2016. It's been a long time. We needed it. We needed a win, guys.
Let's rapid fire out a couple before we close out. What was your Bible translation of choice?
Oh man, English.
You didn't get all up in what Bible translation you had? NIV, NASB.
I mean, believe it or not, I did go to Spanish church, so technically I am telling the truth. But yeah, I mean, I had them all, man. I had the message, I had the message remix, like I had all the
message.
Yeah, I had all the pagan Bibles.
The message was a remix, so the message remix was a remix to the remix.
Yeah,
did anybody ever give you guys an old dictionary?
No.
Was that a thing that was unique to our situation?
I don't think so.
We had a youngster that like for graduation got us all like 1852 Webster's dictionaries because the liberals were changing all the words.
Oh.
What the heck?
I'm serious. I wish I wasn't. I'm serious.
Where the hell did you grow up, Casey?
Blue collar Michigan.
Jesus, dude. Like, that's not what it was like in Miami, dude. Like, you're lucky if anybody spoke English. They didn't give us the dictionary at all.
Were you a once saved, always saved guy? Or did you think you could lose your salvation?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I still think I can lose my salvation. But it's mostly just because, like I just get scared of it. Like, it's mostly just because, like, I have imposter syndrome about my salvation. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think so.
In the sense of like, I know I'm saved. In the sense of like, I did ask Jesus to be in my heart, and I have claimed to be a Christian my entire life, but like I still kind of feel like God's going to be like, yeah, but you're still not worth it.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
You know?
Definitely know that feeling. I haven't had it for, it's been a few years, I guess, but I remember in high school, because we were at the whole, once you're saved, nothing can pluck you from the hand of God, whatever. So I was like,
Right.
all right, so I did it, but then it doesn't really matter because then you end up like in your head being like, well, maybe I didn't really mean it, and now.
Right.
If I meant it, I wouldn't be living this way or saying these words or listening to this stuff. And I was such a straight-laced rule follower that like the fact that I even worried about that is kind of insane because I
Yeah.
literally didn't do anything wrong. I followed the rules really well. It was a problem for me.
Except jerk off to Crush videos.
Yeah. So
like the soda?
Like the soda, yes.
He's like watching Nickelodeon and he's like, uh-oh, here goes another Crush commercial.
Mr. Pibb, why can't you be Mrs. Pibb?
Oh my God. Yeah, but I get it. I do remember the first time feeling like, oh, I don't worry. Like I took like a deep breath and was like, oh, I don't worry about this anymore. I think everything's going to be okay. And it was just like, oh my God, that took 30 years too long. But
dude, I completely get you. I felt the same exact way as you, mostly with like end time stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh dude. In fact like that we haven't touched on that.
That like legitimately scared the living like piss out of me. Like till maybe a couple of years ago, like realistically.
Yeah.
And then it was a combination of having a conversation with my best friend and my dad on the phone, where just those two conversations molding, it's just exactly what they said was just like, oh yeah, like who cares? Where it's just like, well, and so like, because my whole thing is like, because here's the thing, and like, I guess we can talk about this because, you guys are the perfect people to talk about this with. Especially now, I'm sure Fox News is probably I don't know because I don't watch Fox News, but I bet you Fox News is like, so this whole thing that's happening in Russia is definitely a sign that Jesus is coming back.
Definitely, that's definitely floating around at least Facebook from the groups of people I know who are in that camp.
Yeah. And so, and the truth is, man, like, I just remember having this conversation, and this was like it was a couple of years ago because this was like during the Black Lives Matter stuff. And I remember being really hurt by it because I just couldn't, it just hurt. It hurt so much that there was so much hate going on in this world towards a group of people now. Like, why is this still happening?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it was something that it was bothering me. Like I was like, and my mom, I remember I was at home and I was with my mom and she was watching the news and I was watching, footage of these riots and I just started crying because I was so overwhelmed with emotion. And I was just like, I just don't understand why all these people hate each other. Like, I just don't get it. Like, and to be fair, like, I feel like, I was thinking about this today. I feel like I grew up privileged in the sense of like I grew up in a very multicultural society where I did not know very many white people. Like I've known so many races. Like so to me racism is stupid. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Cuz I'm just like why? I know I have Puerto Rican friends, I have Indian friends, I have Pakistani friends, I have black friends, I have white friends, I have friends from everywhere. Like, and it doesn't matter, and it's never mattered, but now it does, And so it was just overwhelming me in that sense. And and when something overwhelms me like that, my trauma brings me to this place of like, the world is ending. That means Jesus is coming back, the rapture, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's just how, I learned that at a very young age and was traumatized by it, sadly enough. My family doesn't really quite understand that it's trauma. They kind of don't really believe that it's trauma. But it is. Like
Yeah.
that's
Putting
really
that
what it
like
is.
heightened level of fear in a child,
Yeah. Yeah,
knowing that like the
that's
apocalypse is impending, and if you don't believe right or you do something wrong, you might be left behind without your family there to take care
yeah.
of you, is terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so anyway, I just remember um I had this conversation with my dad, and my dad just told me, "Listen, man, I have been and he knows that I haven't been to church in a really long time. And he's a church going guy, but he was like, "Listen, I've been to so many churches my entire life. There's some churches I agree with, there's some churches I don't. And a lot of churches I remember when you were growing up and you were young, they taught you this, kind of like, post-apocalyptic, kind of thing. They taught you this like end times, kind of stuff. And, you know, I'm sure it's bothering you, but the thing that I've learned recently is that the real thing that you need to focus your entire life on is just loving. That's really all you need to focus your life." And right when he said that, everything just made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds dumb because like it's such a simple thing. It's such a simple thing, especially because everything I just told you is so complicated,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? But the fix was literally just my dad telling me, "None of that matters. All that matters is loving people. Who cares?
Yeah,
I
and
Who
think
for it to
cares?"
that's
come from someone who had seemingly and been or maybe had an investment in these things at some point, like
Yeah.
to have that shift to be like,
Yeah, he
I've
doesn't go to
realized this.
churches. He doesn't go to those charismatic churches anymore. We don't like he doesn't subscribe to churches like that anymore. Which I'm glad, but it's a little too late, you know? Like it's
Yeah.
still the trauma's still there, but thankfully, it's for the most part, for the past couple of years it's been gone, thankfully, to that conversation. I was just
Mhm.
talking to him about it. I was talking about it a couple weeks ago. I was at the house, and I was telling him, I was like, "Hey man, just so you know, like one of my greatest conversations I've ever had in my life about like spirituality was with you." And he goes, "Really?" And I go, "Yeah." Like I was always really scared about this thing, and like you really like helped me so much, and you took like 30 years of fear away from my life,
end
Yeah,
and
time
that's
I
cool.
feel
stuff
like
is
I
such
feel
a
like
weird thing.
and not only that, like I'm kind of glad that I told my dad that, because I'm sure it made him feel really good.
Yeah.
It probably
You
gave him
know?
some context too for what that actually meant to, like, I don't think that that generation has a good idea of
Yeah.
what it was like to live in this world where like people were telling you that you were going to be like in a line walking towards a guillotine because you were a Christian. And that's,
Yeah.
it sounds so ridiculous, and like I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that that wasn't their experience, and that sounds like you're exaggerating and being ridiculous, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, there was literal like conversations about like at some point someone's going to put a gun to your, and they're going to
Mhm.
ask you if you believe in Jesus,
Oh
and do
yeah.
you have the fortitude to say yes, I believe in
Yeah.
Jesus, shoot me in the face?
Yeah.
It
As a
sounds
Dude.
kid who doesn't have the
ridiculous.
fortitude to not sneak an extra bowl of Reese's Puffs after he's had two, you're like,
Dude, I
you're
was
gonna.
I was
you're-
just I was
Oreo
just
O's.
talking I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday on Instagram, where like how like, you know, and I'm like, excuse my language, but like how fucked is it like to tell kids, that like, this will eventually happen to you.
Well,
Are
yeah.
you willing? You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's so like awful. Like not only that, like, and I don't know how old you guys are. We're probably around the same age, I'm assuming.
34.
Yeah,
Yeah,
33.
we're in our 30s. So we're around the same age. So like I remember this especially around Columbine. You remember
Yes.
this? So when Columbine was happening, there and this was what the conversation with someone I had on Instagram about. And we talked about this, and like at first it was joking, and then after a while it started getting really vulnerable, and we started talking about like our trauma, and like, you know, it got really nice, and you know, it was just nice to talk to someone about it. But you know, essentially, you know, we heard this story, which like, and I was actually just thinking about it. Do we know if this story's true?
It's
It's
not.
actually not. It's verified to be false.
Last
It's not a
That's what
podcast
I was-
on the left did like a really good discussion of this in their Columbine episodes.
That's what I was
Where-
thinking. I really, because I was like, who would even know if that was true?
Yeah, like
Because
other
all of the
witnesses.
documents, all the witnesses are dead.
No, there's a few who lived and were like that's, and then that the person it was attributed to wasn't a Christian. I
Okay.
believe it was just, but because it's like, do you believe in God? That's what's funny. Like, do you believe in God? But growing up Christian, you're like, you're not. It's not about believing in God. It's, did you
Right.
accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior? Like,
Right.
do you believe in God doesn't make you a Christian. So it was like to graft onto that was like
Right.
just so par for the course for them. Like they need something.
that
to,
was like early
pull
years of
into their
cable news.
vortex.
Cable
Right.
news it was that energy. It just hadn't gotten there yet. But do you know the Michael W. Smith Columbine song?
That's 100%. That's what I was going to talk to you about, was like, and that's what this conversation with this girl on Instagram started with, was I made a joke about that song, and she started talking about like, you know, we kept joking about it, and then we started talking about like how like it actually is kind of traumatizing, because not only are you training kids like this is going to happen to you, are you willing to be the person that is doing that, but you are also making a song where you are dancing on someone's grave and making money from it.
This
Like-
was a time. This
like-
was a dance.
Like how
Yeah.
horrible is that? Like you are dancing on someone's grave, you know, on a story that isn't even true, by the way.
And
Yeah.
you know how many people we've talked to about this subject? And it was exactly the way that it's hard sometimes for like parents and family members to understand, because like my parents weren't telling me those things.
Yeah.
Like the craziest stuff was never like from home for me. It was always like these wacky people that hosted youth group or like spoke at these big youth rallies that we'd go to, or like school conventions. Like my parents were normal people. They were not
Mhm.
sitting around talking about like how so and so might be the Antichrist and we might be entering the tribulation, you know.
Right.
But those conversations were going on.
Those were happening in my home.
Oh yeah.
Well,
They were happening in mine too.
congrats.
Oh yeah.
But I
You have
don't
any
know,
idea
man.
how many presidents my parents thought
Yeah.
were the Antichrist?
Anybody
Exactly.
that people liked that they didn't, it was like
Yeah.
Obama was
Pretty much-
definitely the Antichrist.
Yeah, there wasn't a single Republican Antichrist.
No. Ironically, right? Because it's going to be
Yeah.
someone you wouldn't expect coming from a place you wouldn't expect. And they're all
Yeah.
like, not here.
Doesn't keep him from guessing.
Wild. So
It's
wild.
Cory Booker.
So wild. I mean, my friend, I mean, I was talking about this where like my buddy, my best friend, we had this conversation. This was like the other part of the conversation that like kind of stopped me from like, you know, getting scared of this end times fun kind of stuff as well, because, you know, after a while, like you kind of just have to laugh about it, because it's like, it's kind of silly, like, you know, to like live your life being scared of this. Like it's kind of silly,
Is it
you know, and
is it scared or is it relief? That's what gets real weird, is when you think about it, like to what was it to the people that you're talking about? Because I think
mean-
there was a sense of relief that comes with like, we don't have to explain what's happening in the world and how God is like obviously like standing by watching it go on, you know, like the war on terror and and all of the stuff that we lived through as kids, this world is fallen and it's degenerating, and we're almost at the end. Like, things can't get much worse before Jesus fixes them.
It's so funny how you say that, because whatever that relief was to those people was the opposite to me.
I
I
think
think it was
to a
the
lot of
opposite
us.
to children. Like that's I feel like adults gravitated towards that message because, maybe they weren't Christians in their childhood, or they were Catholic, and then in their 20s they're like gravitate towards this thing, and they're like, this is the answer. This explains why everything looks like it's falling apart, and I know there's an escape from it now. But as children, we're just like born into fucking chaos message that makes us unsettled and
It's
feels
like
like we can't like relax.
Your parents who were 2 years away from paying off their house took out a like $50,000 home equity loan, and now your dad's laid off and the economy's in the toilet because the housing bubble has collapsed, but Jesus is coming back soon.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, look at it like this, man. I mean, and this is something my best friend said, and it made me laugh so much, but he was like, look at it like this, dude. If we live through the day that the Antichrist shows up and announces himself, how awesome is it going to be? Because beyond a shadow of a doubt that Kanye West is going to interrupt him and be like, I'm going to let you finish, but I'm the Antichrist. And I was like, dude, yes. And that just made everything subside, man, where I was just like, you know what? That's probably going to happen. Like we
all a game.
Yeah, like Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. Anything can happen now, man. Like, like at this point, I'm surprised there aren't dinosaurs in my backyard. Like, there's like anything can happen, dude.
You know what I'm listening for? You know what I'm listening for that I haven't heard yet? Is somebody alleging that Zelensky is the Antichrist.
Really?
It's
I
got
think
to
he's
be
a
out there.
second-
It's floating
I-
around. Or am I putting that out into the zeitgeist?
He's a second coming of Christ. I think you got it backwards.
Oh, right.
That's interesting. I mean, there's a possibility. I'm sure Fox News might think that because of how much Hollywood is like, we really want him to like be at the Oscars and all this stuff, and it's like, okay.
That'll help the cause. Thanks, Amy Schumer.
Yeah. Bro, like how awful is it? Like how shitty is America? And by the way, like by the time people are listening to this, people are over the Oscars already.
Right.
People were over it by Sunday night. But I'm just saying, like, how shitty is America that Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars was the most interesting thing that's happened in a week. Yeah. And there's a war happening right now.
I know.
Dude, it's just it's
like
just really hard for white suburbanites to get a sense of I'm helping in the Ukrainian conflict, and that's why it's kind of like fading from the headlines.
It's just awful, man. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, like I was thinking about this too, like, I think everybody wants like my personal take on like this whole thing, and I kind of think this about like everything that comes with like tragedy, like not making the slap or anything a tragedy, but like like if it were the same as like Columbine, or if it was the same as like 9/11 or something like that, like somebody wants to have a take because they want, like they kind of want to be like they kind of want to show that they're what they would do in that situation, and the truth is, like, none of us would do that. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, we're very selfish people, like Americans, and really the world, like we're all just very selfish people. I guess that's really what I'm trying to say, is like we're all selfish people. Like, for example, I don't know if you remember this, but like, Mark Wahlberg at one point was like, I wish I was on that flight during 9/11. I would have stopped the pilot or whatever. And it's like,
yeah,
all right, wish you were too, Mark. God.
Okay, dude. Cool. You know what I mean? Like, all right.
But who
just
would
like
be in
all these
Transformers 8?
yeah, just like all these people that are like, if I was at the Oscars, I would have stopped this, or I would have done this, or I would have done that. You wouldn't have done anything. All everyone's trying to do is give their 2 cents because they want to make it about themselves. That's all it is. We're just trying to make everything about ourselves, and it's not about us. It's about other people. Like
Yeah.
that's
Everyone
all it
wants the
is.
hot take. They want to have the fresh spin,
Yeah.
or everyone the moral high ground. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, which is crazy, man. Like, I mean, and it kind of goes to like, even even the Columbine thing with like turning the agenda to let's get this girl who was shot and like make this story and make it about us.
Yeah, and her parents are kind of the ones that ran with it after, because even after it was like this isn't true, the parents were like, no, it is, and they kept pushing the book, and
Mm,
but and
okay.
what and that makes sense probably because if they're the story with her was like what she was like not really living right, and but then maybe kind of started getting her shit together spiritually speaking, and she came from a
Sure.
Christian home, and like I don't know, I guess the parents probably needed that in order to like not kill themselves or something awful. Like
Right.
when you
Sure.
lose your like I,
It's understandable to an
yeah,
extent.
exactly. And but it's
Man,
understandable for them to feel that way and to need
of
that story.
course.
It's not great for everyone else to take advantage of that and co-opt their tragedy for everyone else's gain. And that's what's really fucked up about it to me.
Yeah.
Like
No, you're absolutely
grieving
right.
parents can do whatever the fuck they want to to get through something so tragic and awful.
Yeah.
But like this type of community uh, wants to co-opt people's tragedy, and it doesn't let people in a lot of ways, and it's really
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Speaking of which, have you guys heard of that? There's like a conservative Christian production company now that's making like movies for, you know, Trumpers or whatever. And
Yikes.
one of their first ones that they released was about a girl who fights a school shooter.
Oh boy.
Have you heard of this?
No.
No.
Oh, I've heard several comedians talk about it.
Oh my
I
god.
have not heard about this. I have heard about I mean if it's anything like the Christian movies as of late, like The God's Not Dead and things like that, they're basically just like Christian like fantasies essentially.
Yeah, just
Because
wet
like
dreams.
well the thing that I didn't like about God's Not Dead is like it's very like well like if you ever meet an atheist, this is what you're supposed to say cuz that'll show them.
Oh yeah,
You
it's
know
like
what I mean?
it's like the classic
Like not treating them like they're
Cameron.
people.
What's his
Kirk Cameron?
Kirk Cameron, and who's the other? I can never recall names when I need to.
I'm not sure.
Whatever the guy who does
I
all
know who
those
you're talking
videos,
about, the
well,
shorter
like
guy.
that's Answers in Genesis, right? Like I mean, that was
Yeah.
my entire childhood. It's like here's a book, and these are all the things that atheists will say and think, and then here's your response to them. And dude, I remember getting out of the real world and people saying stuff that wasn't in the script and being like, line. It's like, what do you don't know what to say? You're just wrong, and you look like a fucking idiot.
I mean, something, and I talked to you about this, Sam, on Instagram, but like I'm working on a project now with a friend of mine. It's another podcast just about stuff like this. Like we're just talking about spiritual stuff, and
Yeah,
one of the subjects that I wanted to talk about was like, what does it mean to be like like is being like is not believing in God but being a good person, like does that mean that it's worthless? Because like because as a Christian you're
it's
almost
filthy
taught
rags, bro. It's filthy
you're al-
rags.
you're almost taught that good works when you're a Christian is what makes you like worth, like it like gives you worth, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying because there's like that. If you're a Christian, you'll do these good works because you have Jesus in your heart. But when other people are
Yeah.
doing good works and they're not a Christian, they call it worthless, and it almost doesn't. It doesn't line up.
Yeah, but I've met so many people that like, just aren't necessarily spiritual or anything, and they're just really good people. And like in fact would do really like would probably like if I asked them, like, for example, if I asked them to take me to the airport, they would do it, and like 10 of my Christian friends wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's big part of what, led me out of the church and Christianity, was just finding those people.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear about this movie?
Please.
Yep.
You gonna show
Okay,
us a
so
trailer?
it's put out by the Daily Wire, which is that's Ben Shapiro's network, right?
Oh yeah. I know
Yeah.
this now.
Dude, I feel like
Isn't
you guys
he
are
Jewish, though?
prejudging this already. I don't like
Isn't
the
he
tone.
Jewish though?
Shapiro?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Interesting. So this is a Christian movie, or it's a Jewish movie?
Yeah,
knows his audience.
It's action crime is it's categorized as, and it's called
Interesting.
Run, Hide, Fight. And okay, so here's the synopsis. Spoiler alert. 17-year-old Zoe Hull uses her wits, survival skills, and compassion to fight for her life and those of her fellow classmates against a group of live streaming school shooters.
Oh my God.
Love it. It takes place on Zoom. Like, what they didn't put in the synopsis is 17-year-old who looks 40 is
Yeah. Get them 90210 vibes. It has a 40% on Rotten Tomato.
That's pretty high.
But
That's
it has
way
a
higher than
93% audience score.
Yeah, well,
And
wow.
you know
Audience
what?
is scoring it.
One thing you got to give Christians is they can get their people to the voting booth. And this just proves it,
Yeah. Well, I mean that is definitely something that is very true. Like, if we're going to talk about this, we could talk about this, but like that Jeremy Camp movie did this. Jeremy Camp talked about his movie, that I Still Believe movie or whatever. He did a tweet. There was some sort of tweet. I forget exactly what it was, but they talked about it on Good Christian Fun. I don't know if you guys have heard that show.
Yeah,
but,
I haven't.
Amazing show. So good. It's with Kevin T. Porter and with Caroline as well. Very, very good. And they talk about Christian pop culture. And they were talking about I Still Believe. And he tweeted something, and obviously the movie came out during the pandemic. And so he tweeted something along the lines of like, don't let like the darkness of the world like get to, essentially calling like the virus like darkness, or like the devil or like whatever, and like still go see the movie, like knowing good and well like he probably wasn't at the movies going to see the movie with his kids because he didn't want to get COVID.
Yeah.
Like and so like all these people went out in droves to watch his shitty movie about his shitty like music career. And like and what's like awful is like, if you do watch this movie, it's very, very annoying because the movie focuses on him, and the movie should not be about him. It should be about the girl that he ended up marrying who gets cancer. It should be about her. But he's so like, the movie's so focused on it being about Jeremy Camp
that, my God,
that it like kind of like uses her as like the like a stepping stone to be like, well, if she hadn't died, then we wouldn't have Jeremy Camp's music.
Oh my God.
Has a plan.
And it's like,
he works through tragedy for his glory. I
mean, and look, this isn't an original thought, but like, I mean, it's something Kevin T. Porter said, but I stand by it, by like nobody's business. In the final scene when he's singing I Still Believe in a stadium full of people, he says, at the very end, he goes, it's just a lovely scene because you get to see an entire stadium of people dancing on his wife's grave.
Wow,
that's like a deleted cut from A Walk to Remember or something.
Dude, it's just so it's like how the movie is just, it is so like tone deaf to like, do you not realize this movie is like, it could be so much more special if you focused on her?
Yeah, right.
Like, she's so much more important in this story. Like, yeah, sure, it's important. It's important that he's Jeremy Camp, sure, but and like at the end there could probably be like, you know, when she passes away or whatever, you can then be like, Jeremy went on to be a successful recording artist or whatever. You know, like,
He needs
but the
more than
movie's about her.
The after credits. He could
Yeah,
get
like
that special scene at the end of the credits, you know?
but it's just like, I mean, yeah, it's just it's like, you know, and then yeah, it's just a classic because it's like kind of a rom-com movie as well. So like, you know,
Heavy
in
on
the
the
way that
com.
yeah,
Sure.
it's the way that he finds her, like he's like, oh man, I love the way she worships God, and it's like, really,
Oh,
like, are
that's
you
hard to hear.
joking? Oh, yuck. Like,
Well,
just like,
that's
when have you I have to ask you guys, when have you when have you guys ever seen a woman at a church or anywhere and you were just like, man, I really got to ask that girl out. I just love the way she worships God.
I mean, for me, what I loved was in church when you would see a girl with their hands raised up, because that just meant you could see their midriff.
I mean,
what
that's
sort
fair.
of loose church you went to?
Is that what you mean? Look at her
Yeah.
worship God. Look at her worship God.
Yeah, all the girls at Casey's church wore frocks and like
It's like knee-length wool sweaters. Like it's July. We have the doors open.
Well, speaking of rallying, Casey, like you mentioned for the tomato meter on the other, well, God's Not Dead got a 12% by Rotten Tomatoes, but that's out of 26 reviews, but it has a 75% audience score out of over 25,000.
Yeah,
So
well,
they can rally.
the gay agenda can't keep the church down. That's what I say.
Amen. Let's close in prayer.
Yeah. Hey, God's not dead, but my boner sure is.
I can't wait for resurrection.
3 days. Am I right?
That's your
You'll know when you
refractory
get
period.
older. You'll know when you get older, kids.
I got that 3-day refractory period going on now. Dude, Mike, this is God, I feel like this could go on forever. This is a lot of fun, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. This has been so fun. It flew by.
Yeah,
it did.
Well, I definitely want to have you on again. I feel like you just need to hang out with us while we talk about fun Christian shit.
Hell yeah, man. Absolutely. Anytime. As long as your listeners aren't like, we'll listen to anyone but this guy.
I don't think that'll be the case.
I hope not.
I'm fairly confident they'll be along for the ride.
I hope so.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.